Well, for those of us who were waiting for the sign, it came. And oh my, it came in such a big way, much bigger than most of us expected. What am I talking about? I am talking about the sign we mentioned on this channel. The sign that will tell us that a man called Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta ameingia box. I'm sure regulars on this channel remember that very clearly. However, before we go very far, it is important to note that most people have gotten it wrong. Okay? Most people are looking at it like this, that Ruto ameingiza Uhuru kwa box. Yeah, Ruto has managed to convince former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to work with him. Actually, it is not quite like that. And it is important that we understand exactly how it is. Now, regulars on this channel, please forgive me because I'm sure you already have this information from my previous video. And I definitely don't want to sound repetitive, okay? But this is key. Because without understanding this, then all the other crazy things we're going to talk about in my packed show today will not make sense. And more importantly, all the things that are set to unfold in rapid succession very soon, some of them will make zero sense for anybody who has not grasped this very important key point. And simply put, this is foreign influence at work. Okay? Remember, after the 2017 hotly contested presidential election, nullified by Chief Justice Patriot David Maraga's Supreme Court, and the ensuing repeat election, which Raila Odinga boycotted, you remember the tension in the country. You remember that. And I'm sure you also remember that some mzungu flew in. Yeah, and then shortly after that, there was a handshake, which took all of us by surprise, between Raila Amolo Odinga and President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And so I want you to imagine the very same mzungu think tank seated somewhere after August 2022, and they decided rinse and repeat. Okay? Handshake between Ruto and Raila. But that did not quite work out as expected, because there were many manenos. To date, we are still waiting for that photograph of Raila shaking hands with Ruto. Well, Meona, I have not seen it yet, but definitely there is cooperation. Raila people were appointed to cabinet. And then the same think tank, I want you to use your imagination. The same think tank sat down and said, this handshake has not quite worked. Okay? There seems to be a missing link. A very popular politician who is not in this handshake. So what shall we do? Bring that other politician in. And so the result is what we have today. A handshake between Ruto, Raila, and former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And according to these Mzungus, game short. According to Kumekucha Chris, watashangaa. Watashangaa sana. Why? Because this is not 2017. Why? Because Kenyans have had a very steep learning curve since August 2022. You see, it appears that we humans do the most learning on an empty stomach. Saila umeshiba haushiki kitu. And Kenyans have been in trouble. Taxes left, right and center, and behind and above and everywhere. punitive taxes from the Ruto administration and policies, the government has now admitted, policies that have chased away investors, actually caused investors to leave Kenya at high speed. So after all that, Kenyans are feeling hopeless. Kenyans are hungry. Kenyans are suffering. The perfect environment for learning quickly. And this is exactly what has happened. I think the most telling comment I heard somewhere is that it is very good that now Uhuru Kenyatta has joined Ruto and Raila. It is very good that all these guys are in the same WhatsApp group now, because we would have had a problem going to look for people in different WhatsApp groups. But now since they're in one WhatsApp group, mzuri sana, we know where to find all of them. They're all in one place. Which in my opinion aligns with the spiritual predictions of overturn. Okay, because what has happened is that the political class have all lined up on one side, and on this other side are the rest of Kenyans. Okay, and so let the games begin. It is my sincere wish that a huge percentage of us have understood very clearly what I am saying. Anyway, we can now back up a little, and fill in the blanks of what has been happening politically that may not have made any sense before. Now we have the evidence to back up what we are saying. And let us start with that visit which took most Kenyans by shock, of President Ruto visiting former President Uhuru Kenyatta at his Ichaweri home, Ichaweri, Kiambu. And by the way, we now know a little more about that particular visit. For instance, we know, at least according to a source, that Ruto went with mbuzis. Now, when I was told this, I asked my source, are we talking about goats or are we talking about sheep? Was somebody trying to replace sheep, which were taken, stolen, from the Kenyatta farm in that famous incident? And that is when my informant went blank. They were not sure whether they were sheep or goats. I am sure you know there's a difference. I'm sure you do. And so I started thinking, because we know that Ruto went for this meeting on a chopper. He went via helicopter. And so I was imagining a scenario where the helicopter pilot says something like, Your Excellency, kuna nafasi ya mbuzi mbili tatu hapa karibu na mimi hapa. Sukuma mbuzi zingine hapa mbele ziwache kusumbua His Excellency hapo nyuma. On a more serious note, what were those sheep or goats, whatever? What were they all about? Was it a peace offering? Was it a gift? What was it exactly? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Anyway, as you finish laughing, let me take this opportunity to remind you about LemFi, our sponsors on this channel. This is an app for sending money. And of course, in this holiday season, it is something that a lot of us are bound to use. Please try it. And you can even use my code. I'm sure you can see it on your screens right now. KUMEKACHA. And if it is your first transaction, you will get a cash back reward. Right, let's proceed. We also now know that initially President Ruto had invited retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to State House. Uhuru said, no, that will not work with me. Then he invited him to a neutral location. Uhuru Kenyatta's response again was, no, that will not work for me. And finally, what worked for the retired president was Gatundu Ichaweri. Now already that tells you very clearly that there was one party in this meeting who appears to have been reluctant, to participate in this meeting, and therefore must have been pushed by somebody very powerful. Or shall I use the word persuade? Was persuaded by somebody to make this meeting happen. And finally the meeting happened. You know, if you think that Uhuru Kenyatta walked into this blind, such an experienced politician, then you'd better think again. There were a lot of pressures involved here. And I'm not defending anybody. I'm just giving you the reality of the situation. So finally the meeting happened. And the former president's press team tried very hard to divert our attention from the real purpose of this meeting. They gave us kizungu mingi. Well, about Ruto's side of things, hiyo tumezoea. That one is normal. Okay? In fact, many people these days don't even listen. They don't bother. Okay? But Uhuru's side must stand accused. They tried to fool us, maybe thinking we would never figure it out. We would never discover the real purpose of that meeting. Although they gave us too much evidence. Because shortly after that meeting, the Wazungus rushed to see Uhuru Kenyatta. In my opinion, we can safely assume that by the time the Wazungus were going to Chaweri, Uhuru alikuwa hajaingia box. Okay? And that was the reason for their frantic visit to the former president. And you know the rest of the story. For this handshake between three people, Uhuru had to have his people in the Ruto cabinet, because Raila already has his people. Now, Uhuru needed his people in the same cabinet. Now, out of all those appointments, as I said earlier, the most fascinating has to be that of Mutahi Kagwe. This man is the darling of the powerful forces behind all these arrangements. And it is interesting that the same man was used for the corona manenos to make sure that sisi sote tunadungwa shindano, upende usipende. The same man has now been brought into the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. We all know about the controversial plan to vaccinate cows in Kenya, championed by that Mzungu who has the same first name as our president. Okay? Because if Meg Whitman was still around and she talked the way she used to talk, hey guys, I had breakfast this morning with the bill. Now people would ask her, which bill? Yule mzungu ama yule mwafrika? Which one? Which bill? And so, those who conceived this plan, what are they expecting from it? What are they expecting to happen? I'll tell you. They're expecting that the shaky government of William Samoei Ruto, the shaky regime, will now start performing better. They're expecting a repeat of 2018 after the handshake between the then President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. You know, after that handshake, things in Kenya cooled down tremendously and the country started moving forward. That is what they're expecting, especially because of the looming crisis. They're expecting that the country will be able to handle better, will be able to go through the coming storm better, with this kind of solid government, according to them, which includes Raila people, Uhuru people, and Ruto people. Okay? Now, is this going to work? Is it going to go according to what they expect? My answer, and I believe the answer of many, many analysts who handle Kenyan politics, the answer to that question is a very firm no. It won't work. In fact, I have seen some people, being very sympathetic, feeling pity for some of these new appointees who are joining government, which to the casual observer may appear strange. Why should they feel pity for somebody who's joining the cabinet? With all those perks that come with being a member of the Kenyan cabinet. Unapeperusha bendera, there's a flag in front of your car. You have bodyguards. You have this and that and that. Why should somebody feel pity for you? If anything, they should be envious of you. And if they're close to you, they should be happy. But I have seen people who are feeling pity for the new appointees. Why? Well, bila kizungu mingi, it is like the Titanic sinking, and already people have removed the lifeboats, and then there are some other people on speedboats speeding towards the Titanic. Yani the ship is sinking, but they're speeding there. Instead of escaping from the Titanic, they are desperately trying to get onto the sinking ship. That is what this is. And there should be absolutely no doubt about that. Now, as to the reason somebody would have to board a sinking ship, that one I don't know. However, it is possible that some of those appointees had very few options. Saying no may not have been an easy option for them. Even your boss may come up to you on a Friday and tell you, I am having a function at my residence this weekend, and I would like you to attend with your wife. Okay? Now, as they tell you that, you already have your plans for the weekend. Maybe you're going to visit your parents. But because the boss has invited you, saying no is not an option. Because you start looking at the consequences of saying no. Of telling them, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'd already made my plans. Unaanza kupiga mahesabu. What are the possible consequences if I say no? It could mess up my job. It could rule me out of an upcoming promotion, etc., etc. I believe that illustration will enable us to understand what I mean when I say that some of the appointees may not have had the luxury of being able to say no. Okay? But the biggest casualty of all this, by far, is one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I am telling you, politically, the popularity of this man, the respect so many Kenyans had for him, poof, gone with the wind. That is so sad. But you see, and I know many of you will not agree with me, but you see, spiritually, everything is falling into position. Everything is falling into position. You see, in a torture chamber, you could have the torturers who are good, the ones who are popular, and then you could have the really bad ones. What is happening here spiritually is that all the oppressors are being herded into one neat compartment. That is precisely what is unfolding here. And it is more than fascinating. For those of us who have been following prophecy, for those of us who have been trying to understand where Kenya is and where Kenya is going, it is more than fascinating. And it tells us, when people are being herded together in one place, what would cross your mind in such an occurrence, you would say to yourself, why are all these people being put in one place? Could it be that they're about to be dealt with? You could ask yourself that question. Or could it be that there's something good about to happen to them? I say this because on the other side, there's also another group being herded together. The long-suffering people of Kenya. The long-suffering people of Kenya have also been herded together. They are much more united than they have ever been in the long history of our country. And of course they've been herded together by the policies, the behavior, the treatment from their president, William Samoei Ruto. Yeah, people have united against Ruto. So, on one side are the long-suffering people of Kenya, all herded together in a group, in a compartment if you like. And on the other side, all the political class have been herded together in a compartment, in a group. And so now we wait to see what will happen. I don't believe that good things will happen to both groups. Very good things will happen to one group, and very, very bad things will happen to the other group. It is the nature of this life. Before I go, I would like to take this opportunity to thank from the very bottom of my heart all those who have responded to this season of gifting Chris Kumekucha. Asanteni sana sana. And be blessed even as I continue to pray for you. And if you're still on the way coming, you can see details on your screens right now. This is almost coming to an end. Yeah, because the days are really, really flying. Okay? And of course I'm not so naive as to think that everybody understands what I do. I know not many understand. And it is okay. There is no problem. Because if it is true that this is a calling, if it is true that I was born to do this, then everything that happens and everything that has happened is to be expected. And of course it is expected. Not everybody will understand. But alas, it is all for a better Kenya and nothing else. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.